For years, Letitia James presented herself as the ultimate champion of justice, the fearless prosecutor who would take on powerful elites and hold them accountable. Her public image was carefully crafted, the people's lawyer, the defender of the little guy against Wall Street corruption. She built her entire career on one simple principle, that fraud is fraud, no matter who commits it or how small the violation might seem. But now, explosive evidence reveals a shocking truth that turns this narrative upside down. What if New York's top law enforcement official was actually breaking the very laws she so aggressively enforced against others? The story begins with something that should have been completely routine: basic property records. Investigators examining James's financial disclosures noticed something odd about her Brooklyn building. Official city records consistently classified it as a 5-family dwelling. But when they looked at James's mortgage applications and financial filings for the same property, it suddenly became a 4-unit building. At first glance, this might seem like a minor discrepancy, perhaps even an innocent mistake. But the pattern that emerged was impossible to ignore. This wasn't a one-time error, but a consistent difference that appeared across years of documents and multiple transactions. The implications of this discrepancy are far more serious than they might initially appear. Federal relief programs like the Home Affordable Modification Program had strict eligibility requirements. Benefits were specifically limited to properties with 4 units or fewer. By allegedly misclassifying her 5-unit building as a 4-unit property, James may have improperly qualified for financial assistance that was meant to help struggling homeowners keep their properties during difficult economic times. The irony is almost too much to believe. This is exactly the type of paperwork fraud that James had built her career aggressively prosecuting against others, often destroying lives and businesses over what she herself called the principle of the matter, rather than the actual financial impact. As investigators dug deeper into the paper trail, the problems multiplied in ways no one could have anticipated. Whistleblowers began coming forward, former employees and associates who claimed that they had raised concerns about these discrepancies years earlier, but were silenced, ignored, or even punished for speaking up. Financial analysts examining James's property portfolio noticed other irregularities that didn't add up, including how a career public servant could afford multiple high-value properties in New York's notoriously expensive real estate market. Even more disturbingly, a pattern emerged showing that several of James's top political donors had received unusually favorable treatment in cases that came before her office, raising serious questions about potential conflicts of interest and preferential treatment. The most damning moment came when James was called to testify before Congress about these discrepancies. The normally confident and unflappable Attorney General appeared shaken as lawmakers presented document after document contradicting her official statements. When pressed about why she never corrected the property classification, despite multiple opportunities to do so, James offered a response that stunned even her most loyal supporters. "That wasn't my responsibility." For someone who had built her entire reputation on holding others accountable for far smaller discrepancies, this admission revealed a breathtaking double standard that became impossible to ignore. The fallout from these revelations was swift and severe. Media outlets that had once praised James as a progressive hero began running increasingly skeptical coverage. Political allies who had stood by her through previous controversies quietly distanced themselves. Legal experts began openly debating whether James could face actual criminal liability for her actions. Perhaps most damaging of all, every case James had ever prosecuted was suddenly called into question. If she was willing to bend the rules for herself, how many others might have been unfairly targeted? But this story is about much more than just one politician's fall from grace. It exposes fundamental flaws in our system of justice and accountability. It reveals how easily public trust can be betrayed when those in positions of power face no meaningful oversight. It shows how political tribalism can blind even seasoned observers to obvious red flags and warning signs. And it raises terrifying questions about how many other public officials might be getting away with similar conduct right now. The evidence in this case creates an unavoidable conclusion. The same aggressive prosecutor who destroyed careers over minor paperwork violations may have been committing far more serious violations herself. The woman who positioned herself as the ultimate arbiter of financial ethics appears to have been playing by a completely different set of rules. And the system that's supposed to prevent this kind of abuse clearly failed at multiple levels. As this scandal continues to unfold, With new documents and allegations emerging regularly, it forces us to ask uncomfortable but necessary questions. Who watches the watchmen? How do we prevent this kind of hypocrisy in the future? And most importantly, what are we going to do to restore integrity to a system that's supposed to treat everyone equally under the law? The story of Letitia James is no longer just about one official's misconduct. It's become a test case for whether our justice system can actually hold the powerful accountable, even when that means prosecuting the prosecutors. The evidence is overwhelming. The hypocrisy is undeniable. Now, the question is whether we have the courage to demand real accountability, no matter how politically inconvenient it might be.